Alex Newman. We are going to talk to him about an article over at the Gatestone Institute. Here it is, the UN on the way to unknown. The UN on the way to unknown. This is very interesting because we've been talking some time about the UN going away. I talked about that in my book in 2016, The Coming Religious Reich, and it actually going to maybe the Middle East, where some Army War College professors were saying it should go to Iraq. Then we started talking about it going away due to Trump's Gaza Peace Board, that it was going to be more influential, better funded, and replace really the UN. And now we have an article out tonight that the UN is not what it used to be. Let's talk to Alex Newman, who, by the way, is about to go to a bunch of UN conferences. And then I want to ask Alex, has he read the latest book by J.D. Vance? Does he know what J.D. Vance is writing? Like Talking to the Dead in his family cemetery plot he bought. They call it the Temple of the Dead. Does he know about that? I want to ask. And by the way, we have, as we dealt with on radio today, J.D. Vance coming out over the weekend and praising Huey Long. Not to be confused with Huey Lewis now. Huey Long, who in 1935 gave a speech on redistribution of wealth. A communist. Said everybody should have a home, a car, a radio, the comforts of home, no poor, no homeless, and we should put a cap on how much stock people should own in oil companies, and the rest should go to the public. I want to ask Alex Newman about that because J.D. Vance is out this weekend praising communist Huey Long. What a train wreck this dude is. Then I'm going to be joined by Usama Dakdok and Anni Cyrus to talk about some videos that are circulating of American soldiers saying the Shahada and converting to Islam. I want to play it and ask them what they think. And we also have the screenshot of the military base allowing for the promotion and observance of Ramadan. How long before our U.S. military is taken over at the troops level by, and of course, obviously at the higher up level that's allowing this, by people that are anti-Semites, that are listening to famous podcasters, whether it be Tucker Carlson, Candace Owen, Nick Fuentes, and all of their claptrap, or they're being influenced by Islam. What's the common theme between the anti-Semites and the Islamists? Hatred of Christian Zionists, dispensationalist Christians, and the Jews. Well, there's nothing to worry about, folks, unless, of course, you're a Christian. How long would it be before the troops are given orders to deal with the threat of the extremists, the Jews and the Christians, the Islamists, and the Jew haters, given the orders in the military? You think many of them will already be brainwashed? Oh, yeah, the problem are those Christian Zionists. The dispensationalists. Yeah, the problem are these Jews. How long before they would follow such orders if they're already committed to anti-Semitism, Christian hatred, and they're already committed to Islam? How long would that take? Not very long. Very concerning. And an eye of what's coming, a bird's eye view. We're going to get into that. By the way, I want to get into this too. Iranian-linked hackers shut down British power plant for 4 days, an alarming first ever cyber attack on UK facility. Something we've been trying to warn our audience about for years, thanks to people like Peter Vincent Pry. I want to talk to Alex Newman about that. Logan, do we have a couple of the spots that we made over the weekend available to show real quick? Okay, I want to show a couple of those real quick. Here's a great article over at libertysentinel.org, Alex's website. When the bank freezes your money, one Canadian family's 3-week fight for access. We just had strong storms come through here on Saturday afternoon. Miss Melissa and I were going to go to the grocery store and get some salmon because I'm on this new diet. No carbs for the most part. Walking 2 miles in the morning, 2 miles at night, on a treadmill, by the way. Safe and secure. And it was getting a little cloudy out, as I said on the radio today. And I said, hey, babe, is it going to rain? We need the rain. It's been 100, close to 100, over 100 for now, depending on the day. It was either close to 100, at 100, over 100 for like 2 weeks now. We need the rain. She looked on her phone. Oh, about 20% chance of rain. Oh, okay. Well, it looked like it was getting a little cloudy. So we go out to run some errands and get some groceries real quick. And we make it to the grocery store. And when we get there, the wind is picking up. It's starting to rain really hard, and the power is out in the grocery store. They closed the doors, no groceries. She hops back in the car. I was dropping her off at the front door, and hops back in the car, and whoo, it starts picking up fast. The wind, 75-mile-an-hour winds, and sheets of rain. Really, I thought it was like 20% chance of rain. Hello, good job, weather guys. It came out of nowhere. And we had trees down everywhere and power out. Over 100,000 people without power. Now, I'm just saying this to you to show you again the vulnerability of things, either from natural disasters, cyber attacks, terrorist attacks. Folks, you got to be ready. But I'll have to tell you, these trees, we were like, we got to get home. But we were literally trying to avoid being close to humongous trees because I'm like, a tree falls on us and we're dead. And that's before I saw this. I get home and a few hours later, Logan sends me a picture. Logan, did you take this picture? Logan took this picture. Look at that. Zoom in there. You know what's under that tree? First of all, look at how big those roots are. That's a car under there. So on Sunday, Miss Melissa and I decided to venture out and get back to the grocery stores after they reopened. But I mean, everything was closed. Lots and lots of stuff closed. Look at that. Look at the roots on that thing. Now, I took that one, right? Now, you ready for the next one? Because they finally moved that tree off that car from the day before. Look at that car. Zoom in on that bad boy. Look at that. Now, again, I'm showing you this to, again, warn everybody. When these things kick up, stay away from the big trees. If you're in your house, get away from the area that big tree could fall on. Don't be in these cars. Be careful when you drive. People die. And that was our concern. I was like, how can we get home without a tree falling on us and killing one of us or injuring us seriously? And then a couple hours later, Logan sends me the first picture. I had to go see it for myself the next day. When I get there, they've already removed the tree, and look at that. So be very careful. But it also reinforces this idea of we live in such vulnerable times. All the grocery stores closed. Drugstores, we passed one drugstore after another closed. And I said to Melissa, I'm so glad we have food. I'm so glad we have antibiotics, that we're prepared for this kind of stuff. Now, thankfully for our area, it didn't last very long. But we just found out that in Indiana, some of those folks have now been going without power since August 11th. Here we are on August 24th. They're still without power. Supposedly, a lot of them will be getting it back tomorrow. I don't know. And there's still people without power here in the Memphis area. So, folks, be very, very ready and very prepared. And I want to go back to this. When the bank freezes your money, one Canadian family's 3-week fight for access. You can read it. Folks, this can happen anywhere. And the more they go to digital, the more it's going to happen. And then you add in inflation. You add in hyperinflation. And let me tell you what happens when people start realizing that your money's worth more now than it will be next week or next month. They start doing what they did during COVID. And then bye-bye paper towels, bye-bye toilet paper, but bye-bye staples. Remember going there during COVID and trying to find spaghetti and noodles and basics? I do. But I didn't fret because I have 2-year supply of freeze-dried food. Because instead of spending my money on cruises, and I haven't never taken a cruise. I have no intention to ever take a cruise. I have no idea, no desire to go on a cruise. No. No way. I don't belong to a golf course. Now, if people want to do that, take cruises, belong to golf courses, that's up to them. Everybody can do with their money what they want. But I don't spend my money that way. I prefer to spend my money investing in things. And I don't invest in the stock market, but I spend my money in building up this network, writing books. I got to pay people to do the page layouts, i.e. Logan. I got to pay an editor, i.e. Jill. I got to pay the printer. So I spend my money doing the things I want to do with my discretionary budgets and income. And then personally, I've spent quite a bit of money stashing away a 2-year supply of food and then at least another year's supply for bartering with. Because I know when the system goes down, if it goes down, you know what's going to be most precious to people? Food. Food. And so I said, Logan, let's make a few spots to explain to people the great seriousness of having food, not only for yourself, real food, freeze-dried, but real food, but also as a commodity, as a medium of exchange to barter with. So Logan produced these. Roll the first one, Logan, please.
The morning the power stayed off, nobody panicked. Not yet. Then the banks closed. Cards stopped working. And every dollar in your account became a number on a screen you couldn't reach. The shelves went in 11 hours. Not because the food ran out, because the trucks stopped, the freezers thawed, and nobody could pay for anything anyway. This is not a projection. This happened. Hyperinflation hit Venezuela, and doctors, teachers, and engineers, people who had savings and careers, ended up searching garbage for a meal. Their money didn't fail slowly. It failed all at once. In every collapse in modern history, the same thing happens. Paper loses meaning, and food becomes the currency. Our freeze-dried food is real food. Not powder, not paste, just real meals with the water removed, sealed to last 25 years on a shelf. Here's how I do it. 2 years put away for my family. 1 more year set aside strictly for trade. Because when everyone needs food and nobody has any, the man with a surplus is the man with leverage. Be smart. Be prepared. Have peace of mind and have something to trade. Order your freeze-dried supply today at worldviewstore.com.
Yep. Great job, Logan. So I sent him the script and I said, we need to produce this. I need my audience to understand I'm all for diversifying in gold and silver and gold into your IRA and all that. That's part of the plan. That's only a percentage of the plan. And this weather in the Mid-South, the weather in Indiana, what's going on around the world, the threat of war, the destruction of the U.S. dollar, the massive increase of inflation, the energy crisis that's here and growing, the threat to the fertilizer, to food, to crops. And again, we've been telling you for 2+ years, there's clearly a plan for deliberate food shortages. And now we're seeing it. And we've been telling you that for at least 2 years. And now we're seeing it with this energy crisis and oil and fertilizer and the destruction of the family farm and people buying up massive amounts of farmland and then just letting it sit empty. Logan, I think we have 2 more. You want to play the next one?
Wheat, corn, soybeans, gold, silver. These are commodities. Not because a government said so, because they're scarce, they store, they divide, and everybody on Earth wants them. Now run freeze-dried food through that same list. Scarce the moment a crisis starts. Sits sealed on a shelf for 25 years. No freezer, no rotation, no attention from you, ready the day you need it. Divides down to a single sealed pouch, and demanded by every human being alive every single day. Here's the difference. Gold holds value. Silver holds value. But you can't eat either one. Freeze-dried food is the only commodity on that list that feeds your children the same day it buys you something. A grain elevator is a bank. So is your basement. The commodity is the same. The only question is whether you're holding a contract on it or holding the actual food. Our freeze-dried food is real food. Real meals, water removed, sealed for 25 years on a shelf. It isn't paste, and it isn't powder. It's dinner, and it's also leverage. 2 years put away to eat. 1 more year set aside strictly to trade. That's not hoarding. That's holding a position in the one commodity everybody needs. Be smart. Be prepared. Own the commodity you can actually eat. Order your freeze-dried supply today at worldviewstore.com.
Yep, worldviewstore.com. Do we have any more? All right, now, I asked during that, while that was playing, I asked Worldviewpedia, if our Bible Worldview research assistant, how long has Brandon been talking about food shortages? Look what came up. Based on the available knowledge-based results, Brandon House and his guests have been discussing food shortages in America for at least a decade. As early as 2013, Brandon mentions he personally began preparing for food shortages, purchasing his first 6-month food supply for his family. In 2021-2022, Brennan developed a Sunday night series discussing what he called the Great Collapse, necessary for the Great Reset, which included food as one of the F's used to gain control over populations. Leo Holman and Brennan discussed the deliberately created food shortages that were once considered fringe were going mainstream. Brennan's consistent message has been to prepare ahead of time, while others are just now catching up to what he said and his guests have been warning about for years. That's true. There are the videos to back it up. So anyway, I thought I'd come on tonight because I'm watching what's going on with the world, with the dollar, with inflation, with energy crisis, and with the threat of war, which we're going to get into tonight. The talk of Emmanuel Macron on going after Russia and taking their $75 trillion in assets in the ground. Folks, they seem to want World War III so badly. And I'm telling you now, you not only need to have a year or two of freeze-dried food and medical gear and everything you'll find at Worldview Store, but you need to understand food, real food, is tradable. It is a commodity. You can trade with it. It is a store of value. And it's universally recognized food. It's a storehouse for money, for value, that you can then use as a medium of exchange. It is a commodity in one sense, just like grain, just like gold, just like silver. It is a physical, hard asset. And the price you pay for it now, it's going to be worth a lot more in a crisis. Buy low, sell high. Buy low, trade high. It'll have incredible value when others don't have it. They'll gladly trade you services or other goods you need for it, particularly if you can't get to the money or the money is being debased so fast. You need something that has real value that's not depreciating. Well, you've just invested in something that's a hard asset. Just like you do gold and silver for bigger purchases or for saving your wealth from being completely debased. That's not the only financial plan. And I'm not telling you what to do. I don't give financial advice. I give financial opinion. And I'm not suggesting you do something different than what I have been preparing for since at least 2013. 2016 is when we started selling it because people started asking, because I began talking about it more aggressively. So it's a great way to help fund our network and give you a great product at a reasonable price, and everybody wins. You can buy it elsewhere, but why would you? When we are giving you news, information, education, edification, why would you turn around and buy it somewhere else when we're the ones helping you? If we help you, why not help us? Get something you need anyway and help us with a reasonable profit margin in there. We all win. Worldviewstore.com. Worldviewstore.com, because in the news, Iranian-linked hackers shut down British power plants for 4 days, an alarming first ever cyber attack on UK facility. And we have the story from last week where the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission former employee is warning about how Iran and these countries can shut us down for 18 months. Not only cyber hacking, but physically attacking the right 9 power substations, which we know they can do from research online. He said any 12-year-old can figure it out by studying it online. And then you use drones now to do the attack. The best deal is you buy it, you never need it. The worst deal is you need it and you never bought it. It's like the lady again in North Carolina during last year's crisis said, I listened to Brandon and he said, don't be one of those who sits in the dark wishing you'd had prepared. And she called into the show and said, I was sitting in the dark and cold thinking I wish I had done more. I'd done some, but I wish I had done more. She called in with the audio on radio and said, folks, listen, don't be sitting in the dark, cold and hungry and wishing you had done more. I sat there every night thinking about Brandon's warnings. Well, I don't want anyone going through that. I don't want to go through that. But if it happens, my wife and I discussed this weekend how thankful we are that we have taken the time now since 2013 to prepare, to get ready. And if we never need it, fine. But if we do, we should do way better than most. And there's some comfort in preparation. Trust in the Lord, yes. But we see all throughout the Bible lots and lots of admonishment to put away, to store food, to be wise, to look at what the ant does. The lesson from Joseph, storing up in the year of plenty for the years of famine. So folks, all of these stories, all of these things happening are converging at one time. Prepare now while you can, because there's going to come a time when you can't prepare. Either you're not going to be able to get the funds or the product won't be there. And during the COVID years, we were having a hard time getting tractor trailer loads. We really were concerned several times. We could not keep up with the demand, could not keep up. So like so many things, people will wait till the last minute. They're going to pay more for it, and they're going to have to wait to get it, or they're going to pay more for it, and they do get it, but they pay a lot more than they should have. Don't rush to the door at the same time as the whole room is. Plan ahead. Do it now. That's my personal advice, but you do what you want. I don't give financial advice. I give financial opinion, but I would prepare now. Worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. Let's get started. Joining me now is Alex Newman. He's going to be with us, by the way, at our national conference Friday night, October 23rd, Saturday, October 24th. Now close to 1,000 seats spoken for. Worldviewtube.com/events to get your free ticket. It is free, but you must have a ticket. We'll be taking an offering to offset the cost. And just renting the building alone will be about over $10,000 actually for the 2 days. So again, we will be taking an offering. Please come prepared for an offering with a check or cash, and or you could use a credit card. Melissa will be glad to take your credit card for the foundation at the resource table. But again, be prepared to give generously because we're making it free, and we've never done that in 22 years. Worldviewtube.com/events. Worldviewtube.com/events. Alex Newman, myself, Anni, Cyrus, Patrick Wood, Andy Woods. Who am I leaving out, guys? Anybody? I guess. Erwin Lutzer. Yeah, so there you go. All right. Joining me now is Alex Newman. Alex, welcome back to the broadcast. Thanks for being with us.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me, Brandon.
Alex, I've got a clip. I want to talk to you about the demise of the UN, the decline of the United Nations. There was a great article over at Gatestone Institute. But first, over the weekend, and we dealt with this on radio, but I got to get your response. Over the weekend, and by the way, have you read J.D. Vance's new book, Communion?
I have not.
Have you heard what's in it?
But I have not read it. No.
Have you heard what's in it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, really? Oh, I love this. This is fun because I get to teach Alex Newman something because he knows so much. It's not often I get to do that. All right, here's the book. Boring, a cut and paste, boring. But he goes after people who believe in the rapture, 6-day creation.
Oh, wow. What?
Oh, yeah. Right at the very beginning.
That's a good political strategy if you want to convince Christians that you're on their side.
I know. I said that last week. I said, who's this dude's political consultant? Patrick Wood said he doesn't need us. He doesn't care about our vote. He just trashes Bible-believing dispensationalist, the rapture, the second coming. He actually writes in here, and this is the mild stuff I'm giving you here. He even writes about how he was listening to his preacher talk about the second coming and how he was filled with rage, listening to this preacher preach about the second coming. And then he went on to talk about the irrelevant talk of the rapture. I'm like, dude, do you not realize the difference between the rapture and the second coming? Apparently you do not know, because he was all enraged over the second coming, then he tied it into the rapture. But I'm thinking, what would make you so livid about that? But why would you go after dispensational Christians? But anyway,
Even if you disagree with dispensational Christians, they're such a big part of the voting bloc. You really have to wonder why he thought that was a good idea. I mean, wow. Honestly, I'm really surprised by that. But when did this book come out? How did I not hear this?
It came out in June.
Wow.
June of 2026.
I guess not a lot of people have read it.
Oh, I think it's selling terribly from what I hear.
I'm not surprised, because somebody would have said, hey, Alex, did you hear what J.D. Vance believes? That's amazing.
He says on page 27, just before I left for Iraq, I attended a service at my sister's church. The sermon that Sunday focused on the end times and why every person present must be prepared for the second coming of Christ. I sat there in a silent rage.
Wow.
I looked around.
What enrages him, because that's one of the big messages of the New Testament is he's coming back.
I sat there in a silent rage. I looked around at the churchgoers, happy families and elderly couples and children, bored out of their minds. Who are these people, I thought? Do they know any narcotics addicts? Do they labor under the crushing weight of loss and grief and worry? I hated all of this. The complacency and the irrelevant sermons about the rapture.
Wow. That's pretty fascinating. I mean, again, if I was a politician, even if I believed those things, I would keep them to myself.
Which really shows you he's a ding-a-ling. I think he is the Barack Obama of the Republican Party. He's an empty suit. They picked him up. He's maybe the Joe Biden of the Republican Party. A real ding-a-ling, a real dummy. And they told him, hey, lose some weight, grow a beard, put some eyeliner on, and we're going to make you into a politician that the people will accept, but you're going to be our puppet. I mean, I think he's a ding-a-ling. I'm not sure that Obama got those degrees at Columbia. I think what's the guy out of Vegas again, Logan? Wayne Allen Root, he says he was there at Columbia and there was no Barack Obama at that time. They should have been running into each other and sitting next to each other at the graduation and whatnot. And no, I have to, I'm not saying, but I'm wondering, is this guy a creation too of the deep state? Because he seems like a real dum-dum. And
well, Brennan, if you look at his background, he is a creation of the deep state. I mean, his biggest sugar daddy when it comes to money, as you know, is Peter Thiel of the PayPal Mafia, the founder of Palantir, the guy who founded a weird secret society of very strange people called Dialogue. We've got some of the documents now. You've got Republicans and Democrats. There's a lot of big tech people involved, and they talk about some of the most bizarre things that you could possibly imagine. So when I saw that Peter Thiel, an active practicing homosexual who's been in the news for wanting to inject baby blood into himself, and who struggled when he was asked by the New York Times with a very simple question, should humanity continue? Well, I don't really know. I mean, like, how much more easy of a question can you get? Should humanity continue?
Logan, can we just cut what he did up right there and stick it out there as a meme? Is that what you call those things? Is that a meme, Logan?
Yes.
Or a GIF? Funny meme. Or a GIF?
But you have to put Peter Thiel there so people know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
But I mean, that's the guy who made J.D. Vance. So, obviously he says things that, conservatives and Christians would agree with. But then he says things where you're like, wow. I mean, this is a guy who is married to a pagan. It's a guy who, when asked if he would like his pagan wife to convert to Christianity, he's like, that'd be nice. Really? I mean, if you believe in Christianity, even in its most basic Orthodox form, of course you want not just your wife, but everybody to come to know the Lord Jesus Christ, because eternity is on the line. So it really makes you ask a lot of tough questions. And I don't know JD personally, but those are some really significant red flags that are going to have to be addressed if he hopes he's going to be president someday.
Yeah, and I did just look up. He's changed his name like 3 times.
Mm. Yeah. Marketing, branding.
The Independent here says J.D. Vance has changed his name several times. Here's why. Yeah, I looked it up. It looks like he's changed it 3 times. All right. Are you ready for the part that has everybody's jaw on the floor when I read it to him? Audience, watch his facial reaction. Don't hold back on the facial reaction. Okay. Okay. Because here we go. Chapter 12, page 262. Quote, J.D. Vance writes, quote, when I first made some money, I reached out to an 80-year-old cousin to buy the family cemetery in eastern Kentucky. I spoke about this cemetery, probably about a half an acre, in my acceptance speech at the 2024 Republican National Committee. Even as vice president, I try to visit at least once a year. It's a beautiful part of the country my favorite part in many ways, and I still have relatives there whom I love to see. But I also visit because I find it oddly comforting to know what I'll be buried among my ancestors. I walk in that ancient plot of land and speak to people long dead. Some of them gone before my grandmother was even born. I visited the cemetery before every major life decision, from proposing to Usha to running for the Senate. I listened to the birds chirp and watched the grasshoppers dance from grave to grave, and I remember that I used to chase the ancestors of those grasshoppers in these very mountains when the people now buried were alive and breathing and watching over me. I talked to my grandparents and my great-grandparents like patron saints of the episodes and emotions we all experience in the course of life. I talk to Mama when I need strength or focus, and to Papa or Papa when I need wisdom. I talk to Mama's mother, Mama Blayton, when I need kindness or empathy, and to her father, Papa Blaine, whom I never met, when I need toughness. I bought the cemetery for selfish reasons. I wanted to preserve this outdoor temple of the dead for my family and the sake of those buried. I bought it for selfish reasons. 2, for the moments of quiet reflection I find only in this place, unique in all the world. I bought it so that when I'm buried, my children have a place to visit and speak to their ancestors. End quote. The dude is talking to the dead, and they're apparently answering back because he's asking for strength and focus and kindness and empathy and toughness. And they're giving him these things back. This dude is the Eleanor Roosevelt of the Republican Party.
Yeah, no, I would strongly recommend that he make a quick trip over to Leviticus and Deuteronomy, where he will find out that that is an abomination unto the Lord, that it was actually a capital offense in Old Testament Israel, that it is put into the same sentence in Deuteronomy as sacrificing your children to demons. That's some really serious stuff, and he needs to repent, obviously, as quickly as possible. I cannot believe they let him put that book out without somebody saying, hey, man, this is going to come out eventually, and it's not going to look good. But, wow, that is really troubling. Thanks for the heads up, Brandon. That's insane.
Well, thank you. And I'm with you. I'm just shocked that his political advisors weren't onto this, because this book is the kind of book you write before you got to run for president, it looks like. And so you would just really have a lot of people reading this book and giving it advice like you gave. Well, you may believe this, but don't say it, right? Kind of thing. All right. Well, it gets worse because, and we dealt with this on radio, but I got to get your response to it before we move to the UN. Over the weekend, he was giving a political speech, JD was, and he starts praising Huey Long, the communist Huey Long. Listen to this.
The great Southern populist. Probably most of you in the room don't know who I'm talking about, but he's an interesting guy, kind of a crazy guy. His name was Huey Long, and he once said, "Every man a king" was the goal of his political program. But no man is a king if their castle is under siege by criminals. No man is a king if they can't take their family out to dinner without being mugged or having their car jacked. And of course, ending the Biden border invasion was a big part of why we have changed that over the last 18 months.
Well, what did Huey Long really stand for? I know you know, Alex, and I want you to tell our audience, but today we played a speech by Huey Long from back in December 11th, 1935, and the speech was entitled "Share the Wealth." And in it, he says they need to share the wealth. Every American deserves a home, car, radio, the comforts of that home, and there should be no poor, no homelessness. He goes after the bankers, the Rockefellers and the Morgans, J.P. Morgan and others. And then he says that we need to limit how much stock they can actually own in an oil company, put a cap on that, and then the rest goes to the people. You know, that's nothing more than public-private partnerships. If you're going to let them own some of it and the rest goes to the people, now we're into really corporate fascism. That's what the technocrats are into, but even far more extreme, I think. So no wonder JD, who runs around with Peter Thiel, would like a guy like Huey Long. He was pushing the public-private partnership a long time ago.
Yeah, very disturbing. I mean, extremely disturbing. When you look at Huey Long's background, he made FDR look very moderate, even conservative by comparison. He was critical of the New Deal, not because the New Deal was the most radical expansion of federal government in the history of America, but because it didn't go far enough. It didn't confiscate enough of people's property. It didn't expand the size and the scope of government enough for his taste. So, that guy would be much more at home with the Democratic Socialists of America or the fascists, the National Socialists, than in anything remotely resembling Republican Party of 2026, at least as far as the party platform is concerned. Clearly, there are prominent people within the party who maybe think otherwise, but I mean, that's just so crazy that something like that could be said and it wouldn't be raising alarm bells all over the place.
And I don't think he can get elected. I don't think he's very likable. I don't think he comes off very well. I mean, for a lot of reasons, I don't think he can get elected. But I do think it's a high probability that he will become president, because I think Trump is going to be impeached or resign and leave if the Democrats take the House and or the Senate. And I'm not convinced he won't leave if they take the House and not the Senate, because I think some rhinos might join in his dismissal. What are your thoughts?
Certainly within the realm of possibility. And, we've already seen also how many assassination attempts do we have, at least that we know of, multiple. And the idea of J.D. Vance becoming president is not that far-fetched. There's a lot of different scenarios that could happen in. And unfortunately, if Trump were to decide to get behind him in the 2028 election, if things were to continue as they are, I think he'd have a better than average chance at getting the nomination, especially if there was a lot of other candidates that split the conservative vote. So, this is a very significant situation.
Alex, let's switch to an article. It's over. If you go to worldviewreport.com, your daily aggregated news site, worldviewreport.com. Here's an article. The UN on the way to the unknown. And it brings us over to the Gatestone Institute. And it says the real issue, however, is the decline in the status and authority of what was once seen as the world's highest diplomatic position. And it's talking about the decline of the UN. Now, isn't that interesting? And I said to Patrick Wood today, have you ever seen, and we've been saying this for a few years, but we keep adding to it, have you ever seen such a convergence of issues on a global scale at the same time, right? War, rumors of war, plagues, pestilence, economic crisis, liquidity crisis, inflation moving toward hyperinflation, terrorism, the growth of Islam now taking over America, anti-Semitism, right? The call for a biometrics on everybody, flock cameras everywhere. I mean, I could just keep going. And these things are all occurring now in the same time, in the same vacuum. Now you add to it people writing about the decline of the United Nations, just as Donald Trump has built the Gaza Peace Board, which seems to have more authority and power than the UN, of which Donald Trump has said that we can do pretty much anything we want. And the UN has failed, so here we are. And then, of course, the presence it's going to have in the Middle East, which I think is fitting with Bible prophecy and the rise of the Middle East, Babylon, that whole area, and a Eurocentric world government. Speak to this, because you have been tracking the UN for a long time. I think, in fact, you're about to head to a UN conference, aren't you, this fall?
I am. I'm going to several UN conferences. I'll be in Armenia later this year for the UN Convention on Biological Diversity, and I'll be at the UN Climate Summit in Turkey later this year. I try to follow the UN around the world because it is a very significant institution, but there's several things going on here. Sorry, I thought a sneeze was going to come. There's several things going on here. One of the big ones is that the UN is now undergoing a leadership change. Antonio Guterres is on his way out. He, of course, is the socialist from Portugal who's been running the UN for coming up on a decade now. Very radical individual, although he makes himself out to be moderate. And now the race is on for who is going to replace him. And frankly, none of the candidates are very good. One of the leading candidates, Michelle Bachelet from Chile, is a woman I have been following for for years because she is a communist. She was the leader of Chile. She was selected with help from the Foro de Sao Paulo, a Latin American communist network started by Fidel Castro and the Marxist president of Brazil, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. They actually found out that Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, the president of Brazil, was looting Petrobras, the state-owned oil company, routing some of that money over to these candidates in countries like Chile, like Michelle Bachelet, to make sure they could end up in power. So they're all saying now we need a woman to take this post. And so she is one of the leading candidates. The other leading candidate is another woman I've followed very closely, Audrey Azoulay, a socialist from France. She was the culture minister, member of the Socialist Party. And she led, of course, the UN Education Agency, which not often spoken about, but certainly one of the most important. So, yes, the Board of Peace is a huge issue. I wrote a big article about this for the New American. I would encourage people to check it out. There's some real constitutional questions there about the legitimacy, the fact that Donald Trump is chairman for life and gets to appoint his successor. Some real questions about how that's going to function. Trump himself has made clear that we're not trying to displace the UN. We're just trying to help the UN and work alongside of them. But even while analysts are saying that the UN is in trouble, the reality is they're still accumulating power very rapidly. Brandon, I was at the end of 2024, I was at UN headquarters for the Summit of the Future, where they adopted the Pact for the Future, where they literally said, we are going to usurp all of these new powers over the internet, over the economy, over the environment, over education, over free speech, over AI. So they are fully planning to take all these different crises that you just talked about, the poly crisis of doom that's heading towards us, using that to empower the UN. In fact, in the Socialist Secretary General's own policy brief on this, he said once this is in place, all players, all governments, all businesses, all nonprofit, civil society groups will have to recognize, he says, the primary decision-making authority of the UN. So they're still moving along very quickly. People need to be paying attention to this, but they're not. The race for who's going to be the next Secretary General is going to be interesting. We'll be following it closely, but don't lose sight of the bigger things that are happening. In that, for example, 144 governments just voted to operationalize the International Court of Justice's climate ruling from last year, where the UN court said that every government in the world must fight global warming, and that those that refuse are committing an internationally intentionally wrongful act. So all these things are happening in the background. Americans are not paying attention, but they need to be, because this is all coming to a head very quickly.
You mentioned polycrisis. Remember Klaus Schwab saying that we're likely headed for a power outage that would make
cyber crisis.
That would make
COVID look like a small disturbance. Yeah, and cyber pandemic, he called it.
And then you add that to what came out on the 23rd of August. Iran-linked, get rid of the commercials here, guys. Iran-linked hackers shut down British power plant for 4 days, an alarming first-ever cyber attack on UK facility. Last week, we had a New York Post article on a former federal energy regulatory commissioner who is actually, we play clips of him in one of my documentaries, I think back in 2018, warning that we could have the power grid get hacked and we could be without power for 18 months or more. What do you make of this, that this is back on the headline? That's old news. People are acting like it was new news, but it's really old news. It's in one of my documentaries from 2018. But at the time, Iran is threatening us, and now Iran is successfully, apparently for the first time, hacked a power plant in the UK for 4 days. Americans should be ready for this. But at the same time, I wonder if this isn't part of the globalist plan to let them do this.
100%. 100%. You and I both, Brandon, interviewed the late Vincent Peter Pry, who chaired the congressional task force on an EMP in this country. Said it was very easy to do. The North Koreans could do it. The Pakistanis could do it. Obviously, the Chi-Coms or the Russians could do it. Would wipe out power across the United States. 90% of people, they estimated, would be dead within a year. They could harden the grid for $5 billion, which for perspective is less than the amount of foreign aid we give to the government of Pakistan, but they refuse. So I suspect the American people are being set up here for something terrible, whether it come in the form of a cyber attack or an EMP or some combination of those, along with an economic collapse. They're getting us ready for this poly crisis that the World Economic Forum has been talking about, and every prudent individual ought to be paying attention. As Proverbs tells us, the prudent man, the wise man, sees danger coming and prepares himself. The fool keeps on going and pays the price. So don't be the fool, be the prudent one, not out of fear, but get prepared because they're planning for some terrible things for you and your family and your country.
And it makes you wonder if this is the, remember the math or the government-run document on the population crashing. What was the name of that report again, guys? Do you remember?
Oh, the Daigle report.
Thank you. The Deagle report. Yeah, or Daigle.
Yeah.
The population decreasing in America by millions and millions. You're like, well, what could possibly do that, right?
And Western Europe, too.
Oh, yeah. And so a power grid going down. You know, it's like that line in that movie that was made by Michelle and Barack Obama. What is it called? The Day After or something? Remember the movie by
Yes. Yeah, where there was a civil war and some kind of outage. Yep.
And what did the
Very
guy
weird.
say to the other guy sitting in the pickup truck? The elite, they just need us to kill each other.
Yep.
And that's what
what
would
they're
happen.
hoping for.
And that's what would happen in an outage. I tell my wife all the time, what you think are your nice neighbors cutting their lawn, many of them would have no problem busting down the doors of your home and beating the living tar out of you to get your stuff after about 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks without food.
100%.
Right?
100%. Yep. And the faster people realize that, the better off we will all be.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So in closing, what are you expecting the midterms? What are you expecting these midterms? And what do you think, how do you process all of this with World War III? It seems to be I think World War III has already started. I think it started some time ago, economic war, information war, border war, drug war, etc. But how do you place it with all this going on with NATO and Turkey, talking about Israel the way they are? And I don't know if you've seen this or not, but look.
My sources,
let me stop that real quick. Let me stop that. I'll replay that. This blew my mind, Alex. This is coming from Martin Armstrong. Martin Armstrong said this, and it blew my mind. Listen to this, guys. Here we go.
It was Macron was pushing for war with Russia. And he told Europe, we don't need America, that since France is not part of NATO, that they have their own nukes and they would provide the umbrella. Then he offered to put nukes on German planes. All right. And my sources were saying that he was advocating that Russia is weak, Ukraine has seriously weakened them, and that they can walk in and just take it. And he wanted the 75 trillion in natural resources that they have in the ground, and that the Roman Empire would then rise again to rule the world.
All right. Closing comment on that, Alex?
Yeah, they're getting us ready for a World War III, Brandon. They have been for a long time. Communist China, Russia, Iran, etc., versus the United States, what's left of the West. And I think their plan this time, with the full connivance of the globalist establishment, is to have the United States lose this one. So we need to be on guard. We need to be pressing our elected officials as hard as we can. And we need to be making personal preparations for ourselves and our families to make sure that, if the worst happens, we're not caught off guard.
LibertySentinel.org, LibertySentinel.org. Alex, thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, Brandon. Always a pleasure.
You too, my friend. Alex Newman checking in, LibertySentinel.org. Again, one of the keynote speakers at our upcoming National Worldview Conference, Friday night, October 23rd, Saturday, October 24th. The seats, they're going fast. You can get one, worldviewtube.com/events. Now, I want to go back to the full clip by Martin Armstrong, because I find that so fascinating. Because as many of you know, I have said for a few years, look, I don't know who the Antichrist is. I'm not looking for the Antichrist. I'm listening for the trumpet and for the church to be called up. I'm not looking for anyone. I'm listening for the trumpet. And yet, at the same time, I am told to study the book of Revelation, and that there's a special blessing that comes to those who study that book. And when Martin Armstrong, who I don't know where he's coming from religiously, I follow his stuff, I read his stuff, sometimes I agree with him, sometimes I don't agree with him. I have no idea where he's coming from religiously. But when a guy that has been using a computer model to track trends, I think for decades, and has some pretty good sources from what I hear, starts telling me that the French president, Emmanuel Macron, who I've been telling you for several years, I would put him on the short list for many reasons. Emmanuel, God with us? And he is pushing for what? A revived Roman Empire? I want you to hear this clip again, folks. Listen, please. Here we go.
Categorically, it was Macron was pushing for war with Russia. And he told Europe, we don't need America, that since France is not part of NATO, that they have their own nukes and they would provide the umbrella. Then he offered to put nukes on German planes. All right. And my sources were saying that he was advocating that Russia is weak, Ukraine has seriously weakened them, and that they can walk in and just take it. And he wanted the 75 trillion in natural resources that they have in the ground, and that the Roman Empire would then rise again to rule the world.
Now, isn't that fascinating? So over the weekend, when I'm doing my homework and studying for this week's broadcast, I come across that. He also tweeted it. I think I have the Twitter or the X where he put it out on X. Let's see if I can find that real quick, guys. I think he said it. If I can find it, I noticed I looked it up earlier. Here it is. Look at this. July 12th. So this is something he's been saying. Macron thinks he can conquer Russia and that Europe will then rise again like the Roman Empire intended. And the United States will be the subservient colonies we should have remembered, end quote. Now, folks, you ought to, let me go over to worldviewtube.com. If you go to worldviewtube.com, you look on the bottom of the page, and there is a button. There is a button on worldviewpedia.com at the bottom right. Let's see. What did Cecil, spell it right. How do you spell Cecil? S-C. Yeah. No. S-C-E-C-I-E-L. Okay, well, it says it's wrong, but oh well. I-L? There we go. What did Cecil Rhodes, I don't know if I spelled that right either, say about a revived Roman Empire and the decline of the U.S.? Because if you go to my book, The Coming Religious Reich, written in 2016, I have a lot on this. The guy that wrote a book talking about this was the guy that wrote the book Tragedy and Hope, Carol Quigley. Carol Quigley wrote a book about Cecil Rhodes, and who gave us the Rhodes Scholarship Program at Oxford, and the desire for training young people to promote a revived Roman Empire. He wanted a British Empire, a revived British Empire, to be precise. He wanted a revived British Empire, which is really pretty much a Roman Empire. Now, that was Carol Quigley writing in this book about Cecil Rhodes. Look it up on Amazon, Logan, please. I think it was called the Anglo-American Empire, or the Anglo-British Empire by Carol Quigley. What was it called? He'll look. Maybe it's in here. But look at this. I just asked.
It's the Anglo-American Establishment.
Thank you. Do you have a cover? The Anglo-American Establishment. Now, Cecil Rhodes was training all these politicians with his money out of Oxford. Think Bill Clinton, George Stephanopoulos, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, to push for a British Empire. Well, we're headed for I think, revived Roman Empire that fits right with that. And that America would come back underneath Great Britain like the colonies. And what did you just hear Martin Armstrong say? There it is. Look at that with the upside down American flag. That's why I wanted you to show the cover, because a picture is worth 1,000 words. The upside down American flag. Inside what is that known? The Union Jack, Logan? The British flag, is that called the Union Jack?
Yep.
So here's what our powerful Bible software, for those of you that belong to the Vault, can use. Based on several Worldview Tube TV videos by Brandon House, here's a detailed breakdown. of what Cecil Rhodes envisioned and how it connects to both revived Roman Empire and the diminishing role of America. Cecil Rhodes was a wealthy and influential man who made his fortune through diamond mines and gold in South Africa. He was deeply mentored by John Ruskin, a professor at Oxford University, who shaped his vision for world government. Logan, can you look up the tombstone, please, of John Ruskin? John Ruskin used to be tormented, by the way, by dark dreams. I mean, horrific dark dreams, John Ruskin. And on his tombstone, this is before Adolf Hitler, on his tombstone, John Ruskin has what looks like a swastika, but it's really the old ancient pagan symbol you find in Hinduism and other Native American religious systems. Hitler took it and used it. But there it is on his tombstone. See it? Right in the middle?
Dates.
See his dates, 1819 to 1900? See that swastika? But it's not really the swastika per se. It's an ancient pagan symbol. Logan, look up, for the lack of a better word, look up swastika on jersey of Native Americans. And it's not really the swastika. Again, it's Hitler took it and tweaked it. But you're going to find pictures online, black and white photos of Native Americans wearing basketball uniforms, which with what looks like a swastika, but it's not. It's a for them a sacred symbol. There you go. There you go. Now, how many people are going to teach you this history? Now, Hitler took it and he adopted that. There you go. There's the Indians drop swastika. Well, it's not the swastika. It's tweaked. If you look at what Hitler did and what the Indians wear, and their symbol is not quite the same. He took it because he was into that same cultic, New Age, cosmic humanist worldview. But isn't it interesting? John Ruskin, who mentors Cecil Rhodes, has that on his tomb, as you just saw. In a letter to his friend, W.T. Steed, Rhodes wrote, quote, "The key of my idea discussed with you is a society copied from the Jesuits as to organization. In considering questions suggested, take the Constitution of the Jesuits, if attainable, and insert English Empire for Roman Catholic religion," end quote. This is remarkable because Rhodes essentially wanted to replicate the organizational structure of the Jesuits, but replace their religious mission with the goal of building a British English empire and world government. And we trace it back to Daniel 2, Daniel 7, a revived Roman Empire. And America is decreasing. And here are the citations. 8 transformational steps to a global false church, why America is decreasing, and so much more. So, folks, this is, again, in our very powerful Bible software if you're a Vault member. But I wanted to bring that up to you tonight because here is Martin Armstrong saying Emmanuel Macron wants to go to war with Russia. That to me is fascinating because on this broadcast, if you go back into, I don't know, Logan, ask, because I can't talk and type all this stuff at the same time, ask the Worldviewpedia research assistant, when did Brannon talk about NATO members invading Russia to take their minerals for tokenization? Can you do that?
Yeah, say that one more time.
When did Brannon start talking about NATO members invading Russia to take their minerals for tokenization? Let's see if it can tell us when we started talking about that. Because we've been talking about that for a year or two now. And that was just our gut reaction. We're like, why is Europe so aggressively behind Zelensky? Why do they want to get something going with Russia? And we had the theory that they want Russia's minerals. That was our theory. And now you're hearing Martin Armstrong saying he has sources that are telling him that, yeah, some of the members of NATO, Emmanuel Macron and others, they want to invade, and they want, what did he say, $75 trillion? Is that what he said? $75 trillion in minerals. Let's go back to the clip. Listen again. Here we go.
On mute.
That since France is not part of NATO, that they have their own nukes and they would provide the umbrella. Then he offered to put nukes on German planes. All right. And my sources were saying that he was advocating that Russia is weak, Ukraine has seriously weakened them, and that they can walk in and just take it. And he wanted the 75 trillion in natural resources that they have in the ground, and that the
Okay. Now, he makes a point there about Russia, or excuse me, France not being a part of NATO. But these other NATO nations are pushing for this war with Russia through Ukraine. Why? 75 trillion. And that's exactly what we were telling you here a year or two ago on several occasions. That I think they want to get rid of Putin, split up Russia, and take their assets and their minerals, and particularly for tokenization, as Europe is in big trouble financially. And now Armstrong says Macron wants a revived Roman Empire. Well, that's exactly what you have with many of these graduates of Rhodes scholars, a revived British Empire. Call it British, call it revived Roman Empire. We're basically talking about the same thing. Again, what are the odds of this? With everything else that's going on in the world, we now have a world leader talking about this. Now, you know what I find very fascinating, too, is that the Bible in the book of Daniel, and Daniel is the foundation for the book of Revelation, Daniel talks about, the prophet Daniel talks about the Antichrist coming onto the world scene and removing 3 of the 10 horns. He rips 3 of the 10 horns out by the roots and replaces them. I'm not saying that that is going to be what happens to Putin, but if it did, if the Antichrist shows up on the scene and somehow cannot get along with a Putin, cannot get along with the leader of Iran, cannot get along with the leader of, say, Saudi Arabia, I would not be shocked at all if any of those 3 countries were the 3 countries that have their leaders removed, whether they're the leaders that are there now or leaders in the future, but the leaders are removed so the Antichrist can get a 10-man team of world assistants doing what he wants. In other words, he shows up, according to the scriptures, in Revelation as a man of peace. But we know that's false because the next thing we have is war. He's going to have to go to war and to battle with 3 of the 10 horns in order to rip 3 out by the roots, install his new 3 to make the total of 10 to get the New World Order in place. The New World Order, folks, has been fighting to come to pass for so long. Even the Antichrist will have to fight to bring it to pass. But aren't you floored tonight to find out that Emmanuel Macron is talking about, according to Armstrong's sources, getting rid of Putin, taking over, taking their minerals, 75 trillion, you could tokenize that. He didn't say tokenize. I think that's what they would do. And they have a revived Roman Empire. Folks, this is pretty exciting stuff. This is where Christians who know the Bible can look at the news and hear things and hear and see things that other people cannot hear. You know, one of the blessings that comes from studying the book, the Bible says a special blessing comes to those who study the book. You know what one of the blessings is? A lot of people wonder, well, what is that? What kind of blessing? I'm sure there are many kinds of blessings that come from studying it. But you know what one is? You get peace. You get peace and understanding that all these things that are happening and unfolding on the world stage are not random. It's not just pure chaos with no ultimate conclusion or purpose. God is allowing sinful man. God's allowing sinful man to do things. He's stepping back. He's not restraining certain things from happening. And at some point, once the church is gone, the restrainer is removed. The restrainer stops restraining, actually, is what it says. It's not removed. I should have said that. The restrainer stops restraining. The Holy Spirit is still here, working on the hearts and minds of people, calling them to salvation. But the restrainer, the Holy Spirit, has stopped restraining. And the church, believers filled with the Holy Spirit, have been removed. They're no longer the salt and light, the salt that stops the rot and the decay, the light of the gospel. The church has been removed. We being filled with the Spirit, if we're walking in the Spirit, in sanctification, many people in their job, their vocation, are stopping evil. From Christian police officers and sheriffs to elected officials at the local, state, perhaps federal level, people in key places that we don't even know, in government agencies that we don't know about, who are quietly doing their job by standing up and saying, no, that's not right. We can't do that. Think about all those Spirit-filled Christians removed because the Spirit, Holy Spirit in them is no longer working through them because they're not here, and therefore you don't have this restraining power. Can you imagine what's going to happen? And when you see all this happening, isn't that a blessing? Isn't that one of the blessings for studying the Bible, Revelation particularly, that comes with a special blessing, that book says, for those who study it and hear it and learn it? Because now I have peace. That's a blessing. Any of you tonight think peace and having peace is a curse? Or is peace a blessing? It's a blessing. And the book of Revelation is a blessing to me when I understand it, because it helps me to realize all of these politicians saying these things, all of these economic things taking place, all of these wars, rumors of wars, plagues, and pestilence. It can be scary. I don't want to be pious and say I'm above all that, because I'm not. I'm in the world, but not of the world, I pray. I'm not above it. I'm not pious as though it doesn't affect me. It does. But I understand it is all coming to a culmination of God allowing certain things to happen, and the Bible will be fulfilled. That there will be a man who rises known as Antichrist. He will eventually go from being demon-possessed to Satan-possessed. I believe that's described in the Revelation in great detail. He will set up a system that no one can buy or sell, lest they have the mark and worship the beast. But ultimately, all of these things that are being set up, the economic crisis, the wars, the famines, all of these things that we're watching right now, the stage setting, that's going to culminate in the world looking for one person to save the planet. As Henry Spank with the Common Market said so many years ago, we don't need another committee. The world has too many committees already. What we want is a man of sufficient stature to hold the allegiance of the people and to lift us out of the economic morass into which we're sinking. Send us such a man, and be he God or devil, we will receive him, end quote. That's what he said. I've been giving that quote since 1990. I memorized it so many years ago in a speech on the New Age movement and globalism since 1990. And isn't that what the world's looking for? Barack Obama couldn't bring us the change. Joe Biden didn't do it. Donald Trump hasn't done it. He won't do it. Has he done some good things? Yes. But in fact, reality is Donald Trump, as much as I appreciate some of the things he's doing, is actually setting the stage for the decline of the country. With the tariffs, the advancing on Iran, all of these things are making the problems worse. I think his intentions are good, but I don't think he fully understood what these tariffs would do to adding cost to companies, and then companies passing it on to their customers. And he gets shot down by the courts and has to try to redo it. And then he goes in there with Iran, goes after them without fully having, I think, aware of his munitions capability and stockpile and inventory and what their strategy is, and that this might be a trap. And now we've got an energy crisis, which produces a fertilizer and crop crisis and so many other things, and a massive inflation crisis. The world's going to say, no one can fix it. The Democrats, the Republicans in America, the Labor Party, the others in the parties in Great Britain, no one. We need a man of sufficient stature. And then comes the Antichrist. So when I see all these things happening, folks, you know what it does? It causes me to just be aware of what's happening and understand the stage setting and say, I'm thankful the Lord's in control. I'm thankful he told me these things in advance. Isn't that what he said to his disciples? I'm telling you these things so you will know not to fear. I'm telling you these things in advance. So when you hear of these things, you will know that this is how it's going to go down. I have not lost control. You will be victorious with me. You will sit on a throne. You will rule and reign with me. You're going to get a white robe and a crown. And in the end, we see in Revelation that Satan is thrown into the abyss, in the lake of fire, I should say. Antichrist and the false prophet are thrown into the lake of fire. Christ wins. He establishes his kingdom. And of his kingdom there shall be no end, per Daniel 2. So when I hear a man like Martin Armstrong, again, I have no idea where he's coming from religiously, saying my sources are telling me Emmanuel Macron would love to see the removal of Putin and take Russia and their $75 trillion in assets and have a revived Roman Empire. My prophetic ears peak up. They perk up. It's fascinating. This in front of me here, as you guys well know now, is Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3. This is the 3-volume set for Revelation. What I've just done with you the last few minutes is what you're going to find in this book. These books, plural. Connecting the dots. This is what you'll find in these books. Laying out for you history, news, the geopolitical, economic, world trends, and then saying, is that the stage setting for fulfilling the things or allowing the things to come to pass that are discussed in the book of Revelation? I think they might be. I think we should watch these things. This seems like what the Bible says is about to happen or will happen in that hour once the church is removed. So if you are just captivated by this, what I just did, well, folks, that's how this entire 3-volume series reads. We start with the Bible, then we say, what is going on in these areas of the world? Law, science, economics, history, family, social issues, education, border, national security, wars, plagues, pandemics, globalism, biometrics, cashless society, ecumenicalism, one world religion. Wow, look at that. That seems like we're headed toward what the Bible says in Revelation. I've written it so even a high school student can understand it. They've all gone to the printer. They're all gone to the printer. Very soon we'll have them. But if you want to have a guaranteed 3-volume set for Christmas gifts this fall, you should order now because they're selling fast. We're over 500 units now sold, right, Logan? So there you go. Worldviewstore.com, worldviewstore.com. We'll be right back after this break.
Wheat, corn, soybeans, gold, silver. These are commodities. Not because a government said so, because they're scarce, they store, they divide, and everybody on earth wants them. Now run freeze-dried food through that same list. Scarce the moment a crisis starts. Sits sealed on a shelf for 25 years. No freezer, no rotation, no attention from you, ready the day you need it. Divides down to a single sealed pouch. And demanded by every human being alive, every single day. Here's the difference. Gold holds value. Silver holds value. But you can't eat either one. Freeze-dried food is the only commodity on that list that feeds your children the same day it buys you something. A grain elevator is a bank. So is your basement. The commodity is the same. The only question is whether you're holding a contract on it or holding the actual food. Our freeze-dried food is real food. Real meals, water removed, sealed for 25 years on a shelf. It isn't paste, and it isn't powder. It's dinner, and it's also leverage. 2 years put away to eat. 1 more year set aside strictly to trade. That's not hoarding. That's holding a position in the one commodity everybody needs. Be smart. Be prepared. Own the commodity you can actually eat. Order your freeze-dried supply today at worldviewstore.com.
All right, guys, welcome back from the break. Now, hello, Dolly. Glad you joined us. Hey, during the last segment, I asked the question, when did we start talking about some of these European nations, and maybe even America, talking about going after Russia for their minerals? Because remember, we've been talking about tokenization for so many years, and that when you have these nations that are in such big trouble financially, they go looking for money. I mean, they can't really get it too much from the taxpayer. They have bled the taxpayer, and they've bled the taxpayer through the hidden tax of inflation. So what do? They go looking to conquer other countries. And don't most wars stem, as Smedley Butler, the former multi-star general, said so many decades ago in his book, War's a Racket? Aren't most wars fought for corporations? Well, I went looking during that break, and here we go. This is dated back September 2025, September 24th, 2025. Trump's provocative taunt to Russia, paper tiger, or path to global catastrophe. Here's the part I found interesting in our article here. Has Trump thrown in with NATO, the NATO crowd? His post targets Putin personally. Putin and Russia are in big economic trouble, hinting at regime change. Why? Russia's vast resources, oil, gas, gold, rare earth minerals. Leo Holman hammered this. Quote, the real reason NATO is waging this proxy war has everything to do with the resources sitting under the earth in Russia. Russia is the world's richest nation in terms of natural resources, end quote. Didn't we just before the break hear Martin Armstrong say $75 trillion there in Russia? Wouldn't they love to do that? Look at what's in our article from last September. In a shift to asset-based economies under the Great Reset, tokenizing minerals could balance ledgers. I asked if Trump eyes Russia's spoils for U.S. balance sheets, adding to our grabs in Syria and Ukraine. Leo, quote, Putin has it all already. He simply is worried about the aggression on his border, end quote. NATO's refusal to rule out Ukraine's membership crosses Putin's red line, echoing historical invasions via the corridor, end quote. So there you go. In fact, I even asked our Worldviewpedia research assistant about this. How far back were we talking about this? And here's what our Worldviewpedia said. Based on knowledge-based results provided here is what we can see about Brandon and Leo's discussions on this important topic. According to a Worldview Tube article discussing Trump's stance on Russia, Leo Holman made this powerful statement, quote, the real reason NATO's waging this proxy war, end quote, has everything to do with the resources sitting under the earth in Russia. Russia is the world's richest nation in terms of natural resources. Russia's resources include oil, gas, coal, gold, rare earth minerals, total resources valued at approximately $75 trillion. Now that's fascinating. Logan, did you notice that? Here we are telling you that Russia has $75 trillion in assets. That matches the same number of Martin Armstrong that we just played.
Mm-hmm.
So that's very reassuring that our research is matching that of other people who are researching this. In a Brandon House Live video from August 2nd, 2024, the discussion highlighted the BRICS nations combining Russia's mineral wealth pose a direct economic threat to the Western Eurocentric system. Significantly, Senator Lindsey Graham openly admitted on a Sunday morning news program that Ukraine's resource wealth was a key reason to oppose Russia. In fact, during the break, I went looking for this, and Logan was scrambling there in the control room to try to help me find these clips real quick. This all goes to the point of nations are understanding the trillions in resources. What do you think we're doing in over there in Ukraine with some of these now minerals being promised to America for what we've helped them do? Or in Venezuela? What are these nations eyeing Russia for? Listen to what Lindsey Graham said last year.
Either we're going to help Ukraine or we're not. It's now time to give them the F-16s, let them fly the planes, long-range artillery to hit targets inside of Russia. They're sitting on $10 to $12 trillion of critical minerals in Ukraine. They could be the richest country in all of Europe. I don't want to give that money and those assets to Putin to share with China. If we help Ukraine now, they can become the best business partner we ever dreamed of. That $10 to $12 trillion of critical mineral assets could be used by Ukraine and the West, not given to Putin and China. This is a very big deal how Ukraine ends. Let's help them win a war we can't afford to lose. Let's find a solution to this war. But they're sitting on a gold mine to give Putin $10 or $12 trillion of critical minerals that he will share with China is ridiculous.
Said the man who had no children to have to worry about sending off to war or a draft, right? Now, we also have a comment that was made back February of 2025 by President Trump. Listen to this.
We're telling Ukraine they have very valuable rare earth. We want what we put up to go in terms of a guarantee. We want a guarantee. We're handing them money hand over fist. We're giving them equipment. European is not keeping up with us. They should equalize. And look, we have an ocean in between. They don't. It's more important for them than it is for us. But they're way below us in terms of money. And they should be paying at least equal. They should really be paying much more than us. But let's say equal to us. And they're billions and billions of dollars below. So we're looking to do a deal with Ukraine where they're going to secure what we're giving them with their rare earth and other things.
Yeah. So it's all coming down to rare earth minerals. Well, you need some of these rare minerals, by the way, for data centers, servers. So anyway, I thought that was very interesting, and I wanted to go digging for that during the break, and we just did. Very fascinating. All right, joining me now is Anni, Cyrus, and Usama Dakdok. One from Iran, the other from Egypt. Hey, guys, welcome back to the broadcast. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Brennan. Good to be with you.
Hey, let me ask you before we get in. Anni, welcome.
Thank you for having me back.
Hey, let me ask you something before we get into a very disturbing report from the Rare Foundation. Look at this. Islamization of Fort Hood, the mosque pipeline threatening America's strongest military from within. We have quite a few videos to play tonight. Well, I should say quite a few. We have a few to play for them, for folks tonight. There you go. Fort Hood Muslim Community presents Ramadan. That was back in March of this year, 2026, March 6, 2026. Before we get into that, let me ask you guys about this talk of Turkey and Egypt uniting together and maybe going to war with Israel. Usama, what are you hearing?
I believe this will never happen. I don't believe scripture teaches that Egypt will be involved in any wars with Israel. As a matter of fact, when Egypt was involved in the previous three wars, 1968 and 1967, 1948, 67, and 73, in these three wars, Egypt was involved, and some people thought, something wrong with the Bible, because we thought in each one of these wars that this is the final war. And we know from the scripture, Egypt would not be involved in the final war. And that's why we know for sure the scripture is right. Egypt will not be in the final war. So maybe they can talk about it, but it will not be in action, which means they can say whatever they want to say, unity between Turkish government and the Egyptian government, and they think about there will be war, but Egypt will not be in war with Israel. I promise you, the word of God assured us this.
Okay, but what if that's not the final war? What if they're involved in a war before the final war?
It could be if we're not in the end, but it seemed to me we're very close to the end. So, and I'll tell you for sure, well, let's wait for the midterm election and the next election. I will guarantee for you if we are that close to the end or we still have a little bit time.
And when you say close to the end, which end are you talking about? The end of the church age or the second coming?
Well, the end of the church age and then obviously the second coming. Well, so We just have to wait and see what's going to happen in November.
You think November is going to really be a big sign for where we're at on
Yes.
God's calendar?
Absolutely, absolutely. America, if the liberal can cheat the midterm election and then they will take over the White House, that means we're really counting down too fast.
Wow. Annie, what are your thoughts on this whole thing? Turkey, Egypt, will they unite together against Israel?
They will. But let me just say something at the end. You said if the liberals cheat the midterm, I guarantee you they don't need to cheat it. There are plenty of Americans who will gladly vote them in. Or there are plenty of Republicans who will stay home and not vote at all. But yes, I don't believe Egypt is going to literally involve their military, but Egypt will support Erdogan if Erdogan decides to go to direct military war with Israel.
What do you guys make of another story I saw today? And that is apparently there are some Republicans that are going to vote for the Democrat running for governor in Texas over Abbott because the Texas, I guess, Democrat gubernatorial candidate is opposed to the data centers. So are we about to see Texas lose a lot of Republican voters to a Democrat because they oppose the data centers, Annie?
That's exactly what I just said to Usama. Don't worry about midterm being rigged. They got plenty of Americans to vote them in because Democrats finally learned faster than Republicans to use the Republican Party's weakness. They will put one talking point in there that Republican voters are fed up with. And Republican voters or politicians are going to try. I literally just produced an interview with Tom Del Bocara, and his guest literally said, listen, at this point, I don't care, Democrat or Republican. If they're going to help me with my issues, I'll work with them. And that's exactly how Democrats are getting their endorsements and help and support and voters. Because the Republican Party is way too shattered at this point, from politicians to the voters. It's a split in 100 pieces in America.
Last week, we saw an article on a federal energy regulatory commissioner who we had, clips of him in one of our documentaries back in 2018, warning about the power grid and how easy it is if you just take down the right 8 or 9 power substations, which he said any 12-year-old could figure out by studying the way our power system's set up on the internet. If they do that and Iran just takes down 8 or 9 of them, or another country, and they do think that in 2013, I believe it was, Metcalf had some physical damage to a substation. They cut the 911 lines. I think they did the whole operation in 19 minutes. They knew how to stay off camera. Some Navy SEALs came in there and looked at it, said this was special forces sending a message. It probably was Iranian special forces sending a message to the Obama administration and Silicon Valley that worked together on Stuxnet to put a virus on thumb drives into the Middle East, speed up the centrifuges of Iran, and tear them apart. All that being the background. Now this story comes back around, which the timing is really interesting. Now that story, which we were covering back in 2018, is coming back around because Iran's threatening our critical infrastructure. Now the New York Post is reporting that Iranian-linked hackers shut down British power plant for 4 days, an alarming first-ever cyber attack on a UK facility. We have these warnings for both America and for the UK. You first, Annie. Would Iran go after our power grid?
Well, it depends. Is there really any talks going on? No, they won't. But if there are no talks going on, yes, they will. Iran, at this point, remember, Iran, well, I should be more specific. The Islamic regime of Iran, being IRGC right now, they have nothing to lose and a lot to gain. And they've been kind of showing off. Remember when they took down one of our $1 million drones, I think was it the jet? I can't remember. But they basically they want to show off, and they have nothing to lose and a lot to gain. So if they need to, they will. Yes.
What are your thoughts
But it all
on this?
depends on how we treat them.
What's your thoughts on this, Usama?
I believe all the stories we covered so far in the last few weeks about Iran, they are shouting Allahu Akbar, and they believe deeply that they are winning the war against Israel and against America. So if this will give them a boost to make them more victorious and more winners, I believe they will do it. And the problem is, I don't know why we're taking it easy with them. Talk with Iran or these jihadi of the leftover Khomeini is not going to help anybody. It's not going to help the people of Iran, as I see Anni is being careful to say these are the Muslim of Iran, the jihadi, not the people of Iran. And it's not helping the American people. I mean, 47 years, could we learn anything out of a history of 47 years? They will talk to us for the rest of our lives, for the rest of our existence. So I don't know. We should not be doing any more talk. And if Mr. Trump want to finish it, he can finish it. So far, I did this in my program last Saturday, and it sounds like a little bit crazy because I am against war. I don't believe our war against the Muslims, if they are the people of the Muslim of Iran or the Muslim of Saudi Arabia, it is a spiritual warfare. It will never be won with bullets and bombs. But in our case here, since we are already in physical war, I would love to see Mr. Trump take out hundreds of thousands of the Iranian soldiers. Take them out, kill them. And that's when he put Iran on its knee, and they'll be begging him. They were not going to be worried about their threats to us, what's he going to do to us, because last week we got one of the leaders of the political leaders there, military leaders, who said, we cannot have victory by just winning here. We need to win there. He's talking about America. He is asking the Iranian Muslim to perform jihad in America. I can't remember this idiot name, but anyway. That is their next goal, to go on war against us here. And if they can do it that way, why not? It will give them another victory, because they believe they have the first victory in Iran. These people, I don't know what they smoke or what they drink, but there's something wrong with them.
Let's go to this issue of our military. A few weeks ago, I mentioned that I had a family member call me, and he was so frustrated because he had spent the last several, I guess an hour or more, talking to a young military young kid we've known since he was like 5, 6 years old. He's now in the military. And he was frustrated with him because of the anti-Semitism he was spouting. And he calls me up and he says, maybe you could spend 5 minutes and destroy some of these arguments he's throwing out. And I greeted him, and he said, hey, Uncle B, how you doing? And it was a friendly conversation. He was glad to hear from me, and I was glad to hear from him. And I said, well, what are you learning in the military? And he started spewing all this anti-Semitism. And, of course, he was quoting things. Well, you know what the Talmud says? And he was quoting things out of whack. I said, that's not the Talmud you're quoting right now. That's the Torah, the first 5 books of the Bible. And he didn't know what he was talking. He was just regurgitating stuff. And as I tried to pin him down with his source, what do you mean by that? What's that about? He clearly didn't know. And I tried to explain to him, look, people are deceiving you. They're just getting you to regurgitate lies and to believe hatred. Stop doing this. Don't be deceived. And he thanked me. I don't know what he did with the information, but it was another example of how many in our military are listening, I think, to people like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes, etc. And now we have a piece from the Rare Foundation talking about the Fort Hood and what it's up to. And look at this video they just put out on Twitter today. We have a guy, young man, in a military uniform, sitting with an imam. And he's about to recite the Shahada, which we've learned from Usama, Anni, Sharam, is what you say to convert to Islam. What? Listen.
Islam. The religious beliefs that one God is truly believable, and the teachings of Allah is very faithful to me.
So we're gonna say Shahada to be official Muslim, and
we're gonna say the Shahada so you become an official Muslim.
In Islam, inshallah. So say after me. Ashhadu.
Ashhadu.
An
la
ilaha illa Allah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulu Allah wa ashhadu anna Isa Rasulu
Rasulu
Allah.
Allah.
That's now translation. Ready? Inshallah. I bear witness.
I bear witness.
There is no deity.
There's no deity
Worthy.
worthy
Of worshiping.
except
Allah.
Alone.
I bear witness.
I'll be witness.
That Muhammad
That Muhammad
is the messenger
is the messenger
of Allah.
Allah.
I bear witness.
I bear
That
witness.
Jesus Christ
That Jesus Christ
is the messenger
is the messenger
of Allah.
of Allah.
Congratulations. Takbir.
Allahu Akbar.
Takbir.
Allahu Akbar.
Takbir.
Allahu Akbar.
Congratulations, brothers. And you officially now converted. By the way, you have two Muslim chaplains in the post there, Chaplain Abdul Rahman, Chaplain Muhammad, both of them Muslim chaplain, and they make Jum'ah prayer and make classes for soldiers in the post. We ask Almighty Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, God, to firm your steps on the journey of Islam. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. جزاكم الله خيرا وصلي اللهم وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين. We're gonna make shahada in Arabic first.
Can we pause for a second, Brandon?
Wow, there's another one. Now look, he's got his
There will be another one after this one too.
That's the scarf of the Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat. Okay, and what do you want to say, Annie?
I said, can we pause it because I want to make sure the words that are being used, your audience is going to lose track of by the time you get to the end of the video. Two things. Congratulations to the soldier because you're actually officially not a Muslim. The Shahada you just said is absolutely made up. The Shahada does not have, neither on the Shia nor Sunni or Wahhabi, does not have the Isa, the Jesus Christ. As
I thought that was interesting. I had not heard that before.
Yes. Secondly,
that caught my attention. I'm glad you brought that up.
Secondly, the word Isa does not stand for Jesus Christ. It stands for Jesus, because crucifixion is denied in the Quran. Third, when you say the Shahada in Arabic, you're not supposed to be given the translation. You are supposed to be fluent enough in your call to prayer and Shahada in Arabic to say it, knowing what you're saying. So with that, I think Usama can confirm that this soldier is not officially a Muslim under Islam, under Quran, nor under Sharia. But the charade is a topic we can talk about because I can see Usama was taking notes and he wants to come in. So Usama, floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Annie. I appreciate you giving me a chance to. First of all, it is a false witness. What do I mean a false witness? The first pillar of Islam, the Shahada, is a hogwash Islam. Why do I say that? Because he say, I bear witness. We have a comedy show, Brandon, in Egypt. I wish I have time to come and visit you, have a cup of coffee and watch it together. It's by a famous actor. His name is Adil Imam. It's a very common, I mean, the whole Muslim world love Adil Imam, even though he's mocking the first pillars of Islam. Because in that drama, in that comedy show, he is helping the government of Egypt to capture a guy who's a criminal, who killed a lady who's a dancer. But in the end of the comedy show, the man is crying, is screaming, you destroyed me, you know I'm gonna die because you testify against me. And then Adil Imam said to him, I never saw you before. And that's when his lawyer said, stop it here. Now we have to go to a new trial. Why? Because your witness never saw my man here whom you accused of killing that lady. Now, what is the word I bear witness? Ashhadu. I bear witness that you see by your eyes, you smell by your nose, you hear by your ear, you taste by your tongue, you feel by your hand. That is the best way to understand the statement, I bear witness. Witness in Islam, Brandon, is so complicated, very complicated, to the point. If a woman gets raped by a man, she have to bring 4 witnesses. Not just 4 men, 4 witnesses. What do I mean 4 witnesses? 4 men saw the man raping her, not because they were in bed naked. No. He have to see, these 4 eyewitnesses must see his private part, in her private part, the actual act of sexuality, the performing of sex, and they have to see her screaming, please don't rape me, don't. Now we know that she was raped. Well, good luck to do that. But how about if we have 3 men have seen that? It does not work. How about 3 men and 10,000 women? It does not work. We need 4 eyewitness men seeing the actual act of a Muslim, of a man with a woman that is a rape. Now, when it comes to Islam, the first pillar of Islam, he say, I bear witness that there is no God except Allah. Excuse me, have you seen Allah? No. Have you seen Muhammad? No. Have you heard of them? Have you talked with them? No. Have you touched them? No. It's a false witness. It's a very 100% fact. Now, they added in the English to that which is written in the Arabic. All what he said, Ashhadu anna la ilaha illallah. I bear witness that there is no God except God. There's no God except, because they believe Allah is God. It doesn't make any sense. But then he added, except Allah, who is worthy to be worshipped alone. That's not in the Arabic text. They added in English, and obviously did a great job to talk about Isa. I'm sorry, Isa is not Jesus Christ. And I know they've been doing that for quite some time. But the point of adding this to the Shahada, because that's not in the Shahada, as Annie said just a minute ago, they added to deny the deity of Christ. Now that man is a blasphemer. So he lost Christianity. In the same time, he does not really become a Muslim because he's making up a statement. He's bearing a witness of something does not fit with the ideology of Islam, with the Sharia teaching. I mean, you cannot bear a witness of something you have not seen. So to make the long story, it is sick. Military Muslim chaplains.
So why don't they lead them through a correct Shahada so they actually have a convert?
Because then the backlash is uncontrollable. They can't control that damage. We can't do that. The narrative is they believe in Christ. Remember, they believe in Jesus.
Yeah.
Islam is Abrahamic religion. We believe in Jesus. We even go as far as saying Jesus Christ in English.
Yeah.
And they do. Jesus is nothing but a prophet of Islam, to be specific.
So what you're saying is these videos are not being made in order to have real converts in the U.S. military. These videos are being made to try to convince the American people that Islam is friendly to Jesus Christ.
It is a propaganda video, or I would say propaganda campaign to prove that, look, even our Shahada acknowledges Jesus Christ.
And obviously they're going to use that video to bring more American soldiers to convert to Islam. I think we need to have some serious vetting to the men and women who serve in our military. We should never have a Muslim chaplain in our military. We shouldn't have Muslim chaplain anywhere. Brother Brennan, I'm going to say something here. Maybe you're going to regret to have me on your show to say it. Why did Barack Hussein Obama, that Muslim president, kill Osama bin Laden? Why did Barack Hussein Obama, as a Muslim president, kill Anwar al-Awlaki? Why did, I mean, these are simple questions, because these people are as much as Muslim as every Muslim chaplain we have in our military. They are Muslim 100%. They believe in the same Quran. They believe in the same Allah. They believe in the same prophet. They believe in the same Sharia. They believe in the same Muhammad. They eat the same food. They drink the same water. They wear the same clothes. They are 100%. If Barack Hussein Obama killed Osama bin Laden, listen carefully now. That's not what I believe. We should kill every Muslim imam in America. We should kill every Muslim believer in America. We should, because it's the same thing. There's nothing wrong with Osama bin Laden. There's nothing wrong with Anwar al-Awlaki. And these are the two men who were killed by Barack Hussein Obama. But to show you the stupidity of the American people and the ignorancy of our military leaders, they allow a Muslim imam to be a chaplain to lead our soldiers to hogwash Islam, not even real Islam. I guarantee you, if I sit with that Muslim guy who sticks the Shahada, the rest, as we're going to see in the rest of the videos, they do not know jack about Islam. They are being deceived to lies because we got a Muslim chaplain who makes them doubt Christianity. As you're going to see in one of the videos, oh, there is no son of God. There is no mother of God. Oh, yeah. Allah himself is so stupid. He does not know what Christians believe. Can you imagine that with me? When I read the Quran, I discovered that Allah, for example, Quran chapter 5, verse 116. O Isa, son of Mary, Allah speaking to Isa. Did you tell the people to take you and your mother as gods beside me or without me? Excuse me. Is that what Christians believe? God the mother and God the son and then God Allah? What a foolish statement by Allah in the Quran. What a stupid question for Allah to ask Isa. So obviously Allah does not know the Christian beliefs, and these Muslim imams are using this nonsense teaching of the Quran to make our Christian, or they can say American soldiers, doubt Christianity.
So what you're saying is this is more about trying to destroy Christianity inside the military than it is to build up Muslims in the military.
And someday.
Exactly. But if I could add two things, well, I will blame the parents of those soldiers as much as I'm going to blame the imam. Because if you raise your kid with the truth of the Bible, nobody can make him doubt it. So that's where the first problem starts. But at home, our kids are not being raised in the words of God. So some mom shows up, the soldiers start the question, the video starts with the mom saying, why are you coming to Islam? And the soldier says, because studying Islam, words of Allah. Words of Allah. Yeah. That kid did not grow up with words of God. Otherwise, he would know better and he wouldn't be sitting there. Maybe he would be sitting there to counter the argument, not to join the argument.
Yeah.
The second thing, go ahead.
Second thing?
Well, I was going to say, if it's okay for me to bring it up now, Brennan, again, Lord's Timing, my book, The Quran Paradox. That
let's show the cover of her new book that just came out today.
I really want to find these soldiers and send them a copy of this book, because they just need to read one chapter. Though there are 9 chapters in the book, but each chapter stands alone, proving everything me and Usama are saying.
What is the subtitle? Divine Revelation or
Cosmic Trap?
Cosmic Trap.
Yes. I wrote this book, and the book starts from a single challenge Allah himself puts in the Quran in chapter 4, saying, do they not meditate or reflect on the Quran? If they do, they see it's from Allah, or they would have find many contradictions in it. So I started from that challenge, but I closed the book with proof of Quran words itself. I did not put my own translation into it. I did not give it my bias. Words of Quran by itself shows that, forget about contradictions. Yeah. This entire cult is a trap, not just for non-Muslims, but for Muslims themselves. Muslims are promised things to come into Islam that later in the Quran are abrogated by different promises. So these soldiers, I wish they would read this book. Everybody read the book. Again, not because I wrote it, because I didn't even know where the book is going to go. And when I finished the book, I just sat here and I thanked Lord for giving me the open heart to understand the difference between what Allah claims to be versus what Allah really is.
Wow.
So yes, lack of education in this country from both sides. We need to preach the gospel more often, and we must force people to understand the Quran as well. Because that's the only way we win this.
Absolutely. And I hope people will order the book. Now, let me go back to you, Usama, on what you were saying about Osama bin Laden, Alawaki. Is it Alawaki? Was that his name?
Anwar al-Awalqi, the Yemeni Muslim man who Eric Holder wrote him a check for $5,000 to go and speak in the Pentagon, and then a little bit later...
we drone strike him. A little bit later, we drone strike him. Okay, so you were saying these imams are no different than those two guys. And you weren't calling for the eradication of these imams in America, but what you were saying is if you get rid of these two characters, then why do we allow the imams? Because they're all teaching the same thing. So why did Barack Obama, a Muslim, as you believe he is and was?
He is a gay Muslim man. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
So why that's a lot right there. Why did Barry Sorrento, wasn't that his real name? Why did he as president take out those two leaders if he was a Muslim himself?
It's very simple, because he needed the second term. And I do not believe he killed Osama bin Laden. I don't believe it. I believe Osama bin Laden died with his kidney failure somewhere else, because they taught me this expression in America. If it smells like a duck, if it is quack like a duck and walk like a duck, it is a duck, okay?
If it quacks like a duck and walks like a duck, it's a duck.
Yeah, that's what you taught. You taught me that yourself, don't you? You remember that?
Yeah.
So and walk like duck, you know. Okay. Anyway, so so much smelly lies in the killing of bin Laden. I know it's, people think I'm crazy to talk about it, but listen to this: Muslims do not bury their people in the same day they die. We have Muslim neighbors in Egypt who died, their sons or some family member died in Europe or in America, and they brought their body to Egypt. No kidding, 2-3 weeks later, and they bury them. Muslims do not bury in water. Muslim, I mean, for heaven's sake, you have to be buried facing Mecca. How can you put a body in the water facing Mecca? So it was so much like.
But our military said they did it because why? Our military buried him at sea, supposedly.
Excuse me, Brennan. You're talking to a guy from Egypt, from a Muslim country, who learned, he knows everything about Islam. I never heard of a Muslim buried in water, especially if we.
But I know, I get that. But it wasn't the Muslims that made the decision. It was a Muslim president or his administration that made the decision. How do we know?
You mean we don't listen, Brennan? You mean we have of his money in America, $40 million. We could not use 2 of these millions of dollars and send his money on a special airplane to Saudi Arabia to be buried in his family place of burial? Are you kidding me?
So what you're saying is the reason this administration and a Muslim sitting president, you believe, didn't allow him to be buried according to Islamic law and processes is because they didn't really have his body anyway.
They did not kill him. When I saw the testimony of the man who shot him, and I heard it 3 times, and every time he said it, he said something completely different. I said, thank you. Now you assured me.
Yeah, I find that guy very, very suspicious. What do you think on that topic, Annie?
I actually, originally, when Osama was proposing what he thought might make you regret having him on your show, when he said, you know, why did Hussein Obama kill Osama bin Laden? I wanted to interrupt and say, did he? Because he didn't.
Yeah.
Nope. And I'm going to take this a step further. I don't even think Osama bin Laden is even dead.
You think he's still alive?
He could
Show me the body, and I believe you.
Yeah, he could.
There was never a body.
Yeah. I agree with you, Annie. He could be alive today, or he could die with a kidney failure. As we know, he have some problem with his kidney. But for somebody of our military to shoot him, well, I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
I don't either.
Was Bin Laden behind 9/11, Annie?
Was he the brain behind it? No. Was he the project manager? Absolutely.
Who is the brain behind it?
Oh, that's a long list. It's not an individual. It's a couple of different governments.
Iran?
And Iran, most certainly. Again, I'll take everybody back to 1979.
By the way, they were practicing on, the Saudi hijackers were practicing on flight simulators in Iran, were they not?
Yes, and also Iran helped them with their process of the delayed process of their visas. Also, so did Qatar. Remember, Qatar was involved. We had Saudi Arabia involved. But yeah, Iran, let's take people
So let me
back
separate that. Wait a minute. Iran, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar all involved in 9/11, but we're cozying up to Saudi Arabia and Iran. I mean, excuse me, Saudi Arabia and Qatar. Cozying up to Saudi Arabia and Qatar.
We're cozying up to Iran too by not demolishing them. But yes, we are. Oh, we took it a step further. Again, Idaho, the military base that we share with Qatar, because they don't have enough information. We should give them some more. But then when there's a high alert on president's safety, we don't use the Qatari jet they provided because we don't trust them. But let's just keep working with them, because right now, if we try to not work with them, if we don't cozy up with them, between Qatar and Saudi Arabia, they can absolutely destroy our economy today.
Yeah.
So we entangled ourselves too far with them.
Go further. Explain how.
Okay, so let's start with Saudi Arabia. By doing what we did in 1979, which, by the way, had nothing to do with the oil, but that is the banner for it. However, with what we did in 1979 to Iran, we pretty much put all of our bets on Saudi Arabia's oil. And also, Saudi Arabia became the strongest ally in the Islamic nations. If they just stop buying weapons from us, that's plenty for us to suffer. If they decide to not reroute their oil and rely on a Strait of Hormuz, meaning, yes, if they decide to work with Iran, well, you know what that means. It means our economy will collapse. Europe economy will collapse. Now let's talk about Qatar. Qatar has been the middleman of a lot of businesses going on in the Middle East for us. And even if we go personal, if President Trump doesn't cozy up to Qatar, can you imagine what's going to happen to, well, let's say bare minimum, 666 Fifth Avenue in New York and Jared Kushner? He'll never recover from that collapse.
We are so compromised, Annie.
We are very compromised, yes. And again, that goes back to both my books. That goes back to the Substack I put out today. Wake up, people. Wake up. It really doesn't matter who's in the office anymore. You all have given up in your country because you think those who are supposed to work for you know better and care more for this country than you do. Bottom line is they don't.
But it doesn't really matter who gets elected in many regards, because whether Republican or Democrat, most of them get in there and they find out about all of the blackmail. In other words, if they go in there thinking they're going to do the right thing, they quickly find out, oh my word, they've got us over a barrel. This is all going to collapse on my watch. I'll get blamed if I don't somehow go along with this agenda, right?
Yes, but if you had, let's say, I don't know, you had someone like me, I would have the decency to come out and say, listen, my people, you voted for me, and here's the truth. What I didn't know is that if I stand up to these people, we're going to have to go through a very rough time for about 8 to 12 years. Are you with me? I'm okay if you want to blame me, but this is what we need to do. And watch as Americans get behind that person, support them, buckle down, get ready for the hardship to clean up their country. I don't think the problem is who's worried about who's going to be blamed. The problem is 99.9% of those who are elected, supposedly the good guys, are actually tapping into that blackmail. Oh, wait, they already went knee deep. Let me go buy a golf course there too. Well, while at it, let me get some investment from them too. But if we had an honest man to say, I'm going to stand up to them, I'm going to clean house, but it's going to be a rough patch, then people would get behind them and we would figure it out.
Yeah.
Again, America was not built from some, millionaires, billionaires, politicians, or scientists. It was built by honest, God-fearing man. That's all we need, honest, God-fearing man.
I agree. Let's go back to the clip for the second time. Here we go. Here's the next soldier.
Translation in English. أشهد ألا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن.
All right, more of the same.
Is the messenger. He joined the Ummah, the nation, member of the community and all the Ummah around the world. We add Jesus because the background.
My word, how many of these military people are they doing this with?
Study with me here, a little class about. Okay, after there is no.
I mean, they're just. How many of these? Oh my! Do we know when this was? I just noticed one guy was wearing a surgical mask. Is this new footage, or was it during COVID, or does anyone know the timeline on this?
Lots of deception, Brennan. This obviously is 5 years old, and the Muslim would love to collect as many as he can and replace him and replace.
So this is not new footage, Annie?
I could not confirm the date on the video, but I want to say this, and I know your audience is aware, but I will say this. What I'm about to say is not the opinion or may not even be agreed upon from Brennan or Usama, but the original article inside Rare Foundation got the video. That's wonderful. Some of the facts mentioned there, I can absolutely counter. Some of them, I have found zero reliable sources to back them. And this video is the only time you do not see a timestamp or a date on. I could confirm the video is real. I could not confirm the exact date or year or the season of it.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's go to this other one. It would be absolutely no surprise if Kandahoe County Administrator Kelsey Baker is allegedly turning a veteran service office into a Muslim prayer room. Why? Because Islam has already embedded itself. Okay. So people are talking about that in Minnesota. Again, I don't know how old this video footage is. Have you researched this, either one of you?
The fold of Islam.
Did I see that? Yes, I could not find a date on that either, again.
Okay. But the bottom line, that's Greeley, Colorado. Okay, but the bottom line is we definitely, whether these videos are a few weeks old, few months old, 5 years old, the bottom line is we got a problem in the U.S. military. Has this stopped under President Trump? Because if it's 5 years old, that's a different scenario. If it hasn't stopped under President Trump, then that's obviously a very concerning
It has
situation.
not.
Okay.
It has not. We may not have a date for the videos, but two things. If you go back to the original article inside Rare Foundation website, the banner you showed, the meme for there you go, the 5th annual, the date is this year. And look at the contact information. They're both military members. Do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
So this is, we know at least the event was on March 6, 2026, and it is directly connected to the base there, the Fort Hood base. But another thing is, about 9 years ago, when the sweetheart of the reformers, Zuhdi Jasser, came out, lashing out at all of us, calling us more dangerous than the jihadists, I do remember when I said, you to the people, Americans, you may want to keep an eye on when they're going to start infiltrating our military. Because the counter argument was Zuhdi Jasser is a legit reformer and he served in our military. And I said, he served in our military for a different purpose. He wasn't there to serve our country. He was there to find the credibility and the connections to tell the Muslims how to get in. And here we are 9 years later. So no, this didn't start under Trump nor Biden. It was pretty much, well, when I spotted it, it was during, again, Hussein Obama.
Yeah. And it is sad, Brennan, I was speaking in Phoenix, Arizona just a few months ago, and I was shocked to know about Ibrahim Hamada and Mohammed Zuhdi Jasser, both of them running as Republican, and they have been both endorsed by Charlie Kirk Group. I mean, literally, I was shocked when I was there because I was supposed to go speak to Charlie Kirk Group, and the lady came to one of my meetings in Phoenix, and she was so happy to meet with me, and she's so excited about meeting with me. Please, we want you to come to speak in our group tomorrow. And in that meeting at that night, I was asked a question about how do you feel about having Mohammed Zuhdi Jasser and Ibrahim Hamada as a Republican, and they are endorsed by Charlie Kirk Group. And I said, this is the dumbest thing they have ever done. I said, Charlie Kirk is literally rolling in his grave because of what you guys are doing to his organization. He worked so hard to emphasize on the reality that Islam and America cannot fit together in any way, shape, or form. That lady who want to meet with me so badly, she actually never called me in the morning to tell me where to meet or how to meet, because obviously I was not there to fit with their agenda of their new Charlie Kirk Group to say that, Usama is not going to be in our side in that portion of the story. It is sad.
So you're saying that after Charlie Kirk died is when they started endorsing Muslims for office?
Yeah.
Did you know that, Annie?
2 Muslim men. Ibrahim Hamada, Charlie Kirk. Go online right now and check it out. I mean,
yes, I did know that. We covered it on your show, Brian.
Yeah, I thought we did.
Yes, we did. Yes, we did.
I was shocked. I was shocked myself. So,
by the way, sometimes I ask the questions. I'm not asking because I don't know the answer. I'm asking so that I can bring you in.
Get approval. Yeah.
Oh, you were testing my memory.
No, I knew you knew. I'm just trying to keep developing the interview here and keep it going. But I remembered us discussing it, so we went into great detail about Zasser Judy and how you and I have actually been criticized by some people because, you got people giving him interviews and talking like he's a moderate, and we know he's not. Because there is no moderate Islam.
Well, go ahead.
Go ahead, Annie.
No, I was going to tell Brandon to please check his email. I just sent you another news that just came out that is very related, way younger age, but very related to the discussion here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we got a brand new presentation, Brennan, where we talk about moderate Islam and Mohammed Zuhdi Jasser and purpose. And we got a few slides. I'm not going to put them today, but I wish in the future we can share them with your audience to tell them about. And by the way, I did this exactly because of my discoveries that he has been endorsed by Charlie Kirk. It's a very few slides, but they're very important. It would take 15, 20 minutes to share. So maybe in the future, if you can contact contact with me again, and we can do a show about him as a moderate Muslim and how he and his family, mom and dad, were actually successful to build mosques in 4 states in America because he's a moderate. When in reality, I will share with you from his own words when he said he does not know jack about the Quran or Sharia.
Here we go. Red State. Girl Scouts of America offers Muslim badges. Wait till you hear how to earn them. Annie, how do you earn them?
Well, apparently, if you're already a Muslim, great. Well, hold on. Let's talk about the badges first, because it's actually interesting. It ties back to what the soldiers were saying. So the badges come with Bismillah, which is, well, in the name of Allah. And then it comes with, Yasama, you're going to get a good kick out of this, Muslimin. We're going to teach Arabic to little girls in America that you're a Muslima or a Muslim or Muslimun or Muslimin. It's just ridiculous. Anyways, I'm sorry. That's just
I wonder, Annie, when they're going to teach the 87% of the Muslims in planet Earth, in the Muslim world, how to at least know what they're saying in their Arabic prayers?
Never. If they knew what they were saying, they would leave the religion, Yasama. Why would you teach them what they're saying? That's the whole point.
You know, Brennan, it is so ridiculously foolish. When I go to Somalia, I'm Somali. When I go to the Muslim population, Somali in Minnesota, and I stand outside the mosque for 2 hours, and all the Muslims come out of the mosque, hundreds of them, and I could not find one person speaks the Arabic language. I mean, you talk about hundreds of Muslims. I wait to meet the Imam, and the Imam does not speak Arabic. How in the world they were praying for 2 hours in the mosque in the Arabic language where none of them know good morning? How are you doing? Did you have a good time praying today? MashaAllah. God help us. It is so ridiculous.
So let me ask you this in closing, guys.
Yeah, but that...
Yeah?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Annie.
But Yasama, that's actually one of the things I mentioned in my book.
Good for you.
Dad, Allah puts a challenge in the Quran, says, reflect on the Quran. You know it's mine because there are no contradictions. Well, we'll find that out. But beside that, then also within Quran, Allah goes from, I send this in Arabic so you would understand, to I send this in Arabic because the messenger was from Arabia, to where Arabic language becomes the superior language within the Quran. I did not make this up. The verses are in the book. Yeah. Then it becomes the gate of entry to the challenge. You cannot challenge this book unless you're fluent in Arabic. However, my imams in America can skip that part, understand Quran in English fully. Like the double standards, the contradiction, again, paradox.
Listen, I'll tell you a joke. I know Brandon will not be very happy to take a 2-minute joke here. We were in Ohio, me and my producer for our show, which we carry on Brandon broadcast as well. His name is Paul Sutcliffe. He's speaking with the Imam on one side of the street. I am with some Muslim men on the other side. And then Brother Paul call me, Usama, come here. So I left my 2 guys and I went to talk to the Imam. And Brandon, God's my witness, I have no idea why I spoke in the Arabic language. So I start speaking Arabic language. I'm being silly. Hey, I hope you guys having a good time and enjoy each other's company. And it's a beautiful day. So I hope you don't kill each other, okay? I say that in Arabic. And the Imam walked back 3 steps and he said, I don't know any Arabic. And that's when Paul said, excuse me. You just said a minute ago to me, because I'm an American and I don't speak Arabic, that I'm not qualified to talk about Islam. And for me to understand Islam and to talk about Islam, I must speak the Arabic language very well. And you yourselves, the Imam, do not know any Arabic?
Exactly.
Figure it out. Figure it out. Imams in America, from Pakistan, from Afghanistan, from Indonesia, from the 7 Muslim countries, of course, many of them, as I said, 87% of them do not speak Arabic. And he is mocking my friend Paul because he does not speak Arabic, but he himself does not know any Arabic.
All right, so let me ask you this, guys, in closing. If you have the troops being brainwashed by anti-Semitism from famous podcasters, and you have Islamic imams in the military brainwashing them, converting them, supposedly, what's the common theme? Hatred of Christians, and particularly Zionist Christians, dispensationalists, and Jews. What we're watching, in my opinion, is the collapsing of the U.S. military, or I should say the brainwashing of the U.S. military and the conditioning of the U.S. military, particularly the troops, the grunts, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way, that they will send out as their jackbooted thugs to deal with what are the main enemies of the anti-Semites and the Islamists, which is the Christians and the Jews. True or false? Annie, you first.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, let me bring it back to the Quran because it's fun now to do that. Quran 551 is exactly what we're facing today. Oh, you who have believed, do not take Christians and Jews. It doesn't say non-believers. It doesn't say those who don't believe. No, it specifically says do not take Christians and Jews as your allies and or protectors because they're each other's allies. And if you have any relation with them, you have nothing to do with Allah. That's what we're facing. We're turning everyone we can into part of Ummah, as the Imam said, so we can turn them against all Christian and Jews that they're not supposed to take as allies.
Yeah.
Usama, quick answer.
I'm sad to say, Brennan, what's happening in Russia will repeat itself in America. Do you know that in Russia, there are 20% of the people who live there are Muslims, and in their military, 40% are Muslims?
Oh, I knew it was high Muslims in their military because I gave a presentation several years ago for the VCY America rally, and I spoke about Ezekiel 38:39, and I went into stats on Russia and what percentage of their military was Muslim and how fast it was growing to that. Which fits, by the way, with Ezekiel 38:39 and Russia being a part of that coalition that moves eventually against Israel, and their military is going to be full of Muslims.
Brennan, for years growing up in Egypt, and I hear some of the preachers, including my father, talking about Russia is going to be involved in the final war. But when I watch the soccer cup, the soccer games, I see the players from Russia, they always do the cross when they score the goal. I said, well, how can they be Christians and they're going to go in war against Israel? I did not know that the military is loaded by literally twice as much of the percentage of the Muslims who live in Russia. And you're going to see that in America. You're going to see our military loaded by Muslims twice as much as they are in America, which means if we got 10% Muslim in America, there will be 20% Muslim in our military. And because of how the system is set, minority rights. Do you know if me and you right now serving in the military and I'm a Muslim and you're a Christian, I have the right to be your boss twice as fast than you can ever be my boss. They will not only be higher number in our military, they will have high position in our military simply because they are Muslims. God help us, Brad.
God help us. That is so true. Usama Doc, thestraightway.org, thestraightway.org, thestraightway.org. Annie's book is out now for today. Congratulations, Annie. You can get it on Amazon. Again, what is the title, Annie?
Thank you, Brandon. The Quran Paradox. You can get all the formats on Amazon, but if you're interested in signed copies, then you got to go to my website, liveuptofreedom.com. That's where you can order your signed copies.
Liveuptofreedom.com. Liveuptofreedom.com, correct?
Yes, sir. Liveuptofreedom.com.
For a signed copy. All right, guys. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Brandon. Thanks, Usama.
Thanks, Annie.
All right, guys. That's our broadcast for tonight. You appreciate all we're doing here, all the truth we're putting out, standing our ground, speaking truth. We need your support. Again, we're trying to make up for a shortfall over the summer. Giving goes down in the summer. We haven't. We've been staying right here working. You saw me take off a few days, but a lot of people take a 2-week vacation. Not us. We've been here working and continuing and pushing out free Christian worldview programming as a broadcast service, education, and ministry. We need your support. Please consider going now, would you? Some of you could go right now, $200, $500, $1,000. But if you can only do $5, $10, $20, even a small donation adds up when added to the small donations of others. Worldviewfoundation.com, please. Worldviewfoundation.com. You'll also find our mailing address there if you prefer to support us through the mail. So thank you for that. Worldviewfoundation.com. Roll the music. Let's call it a night. Hey, don't forget, get your free business cards. Pass them out to family and friends or people you meet, a waiter, a waitress, someone you're standing in the line with at the grocery store, and say, hey, here's a card. You ought to consider listening to this free network They're going to tell you things you're not going to hear by the mainstream media. They're going to give you the truth. Maybe you're in a conversation with somebody and they bring something up that shows you they would be interested in this. Give them a card. You can get a stack for free, worldviewstore.com. May God save America. Take care.
Faith, spiritual values, moral issues, government, economy, education, work, responsibility. What we think about these depends on our worldview. Now, VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brannon House.
Welcome. Glad you're with us. We're going to be joined today by Pastor Tom Hughes. Dr. Woods is on sabbatical for, I think, about 3-month sabbatical, and he is on a trip now for the next couple weeks. So today we have Dr. and Pastor Tom Hughes with us. He'll also be with us next week as well. We might even have J.B. Hickson and Brandon Holthouse and Pastor Tom Hughes all at the same time next week. Now, wouldn't that be something? I'm texting with all of them to join us for what would we call a super panel, a super prophecy panel. By the way, we've already booked Dr. Tom Hughes along with J.B. Hickson and Brandon Holthouse for the Worldview Weekend National Conference in Milwaukee in 2027. But we're not planning on being here. I'm planning on being raptured out of here by then. But who knows? Maybe, maybe not. So there you go. We'll see. But it's booked. And we'll make our plans, and the Lord decides what happens and doesn't happen, right? We are headed, folks, into some very, very interesting days. I was having a conversation this morning with Pastor Tom Hughes about that, and it is going to be very interesting. There are so many things, that word we like to use here, convergence, a convergence of many things happening. Let me just read to you some of the headlines. If you go over to worldviewreport.com, your daily aggregated news site, here's what we read. And we're going to be joined by Anni Cyrus Logan at 1:30 Central by radio and when the pastor has to go. But here's some of the headlines today. Former leader of Israel's Mossad says, quote, "It's not safe to walk on London streets or in Manchester if you're Jewish," end quote. Another headline. North Korea's fingerprints all over Iran's war against America. Turkey seeks international arrest warrant for Netanyahu over, quote, genocide, end quote, minister says. The uncomfortable reality, 40 trillion national debt colliding with corporate AI spending spree. Yeah, we've passed the 40 trillion, guys. That does not include the 29 trillion off record, not even counted in that 40. That's just Social Security. Can we talk about everything else that puts us well over 100 trillion? And now we're buying our own debt to pay the interest. Isn't that something? Leftist white woman converted to Islam plotted to bomb New York Capitol. Leftist white woman. Iran vows devastating response to U.S. threat to cut off its economic lifelines. Of course, now we have the threat, as we've been talking about for years, but now it's back on the headlines. The power grid could go down for 18 months or more. If they just hit 9 critical substations, which any 12-year-old could find if they searched the internet and looked at where the various power was flowing to. That is according to the former employee of the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, someone who's in one of my documentaries from back in 2018. But why is this news story being recycled? Because Iran is threatening our critical infrastructure right now. So it's real. And what came out this week? One of the biggest leaders of our military, with I think 3 stars on his shoulder, came out and said, no, we have no way to stop a massive a swarm of drones hitting the U.S. Well, that's ironic because right now we're being told of at least 300 drones from Iran parked in Cuba. Interesting how these stories are all colliding. Are people connecting the dots? Most people are not connecting the dots. Israel did not approve entry of international security force to Gaza Strip, says Netanyahu. So the Board of Peace, wanting to put together their international security force, is not getting approved by Netanyahu. Tensions with Netanyahu and Trump are rising. Trump is apparently withholding, as of now, his endorsement of the president or the prime minister, which I think there's an election coming up. I think it's October 27th off the top of my head. The dollar is not doing well. Bassett's bond buying has not worked. Yields are still going higher. And we've got a reset coming January 18, 2027, related to some of these rules and stablecoins. All of this is merging, folks. And isn't it a great time to be a Christian who understands the time and Bible prophecy? But you, my friends, are like the Marines, the few, the proud, the Marines. You're the few, the discerning, the understanding. Most Christians in America, most Americans, but certainly even most self-professing Christians, do not understand the puzzle pieces. As Francis Schaeffer said, they can see the world in bits and pieces, but not the big picture. Well, you have the big picture because you're not leaving out the Bible. You're believing in the whole counsel of the Word of God. You understand Genesis and Revelation, two books that are so commonly left